Hey guys, so we're going to continue working on sending direct messages now. So if we hop back where we left off, we had just created our schema for direct messages, and I made a quick little typo here. That's not how you spell receiver, E before I right there. So now that matches up with how I spelled it the rest of the way, so we're good. And we were working on this direct messages route here. Now right now we currently have our create message mutation in here, and we want to replace this with our create direct message mutation. So we're just going to come over here to graphical and create that. So it's going to be a mutation, it's going to be create direct message, and here we're going to have a receiver ID, and we're going to have to put in variables, receiver ID, and what is the other one, text, and then it's going to return whether it's okay or not. So then up here we're going to add our variables, receiver ID, which is going to be an int, and text, which is going to be a string, and both are not null. Alright, so copy that, paste it in here, and we're going to call this create direct message mutation. Alright, and so we're passing this in, and let's format that nicely. There we go. So now we're passing in direct message mutation into our view team, so we can grab the mutate up here, and then we're just going to call mutate on our onSubmit here. So we're going to be given text, and I'm going to make this an async function, so text, and what we're going to do is we're going to call await, and we're just going to call mutate, and the variables for this is text, which we're getting from right here, from our onSubmit whenever they send a message, and then our receiver ID. So the receiver ID we're actually getting passed in as a parameter to our URL. So up here we're going to be like view team /user/1/4. So user 4 is the user we're trying to message. So then here we're just going to say receiver ID. I almost misspelled that again. Oh, did I misspell it here? If I refresh, it looks like it remembered my bad one because I didn't refresh since we renamed it. There we go. See how we get E before I there? Alright, we're going to reverse these right here too. There we go. So now it says receiver, receiver, receiver. All that looks good. And then we're going to pass in the user ID we got up there. Give it a save. So cool. So now when I send a message, what we're going to do is we're going to create that message based on the user we pass in and the text we get from this send message. So next, after we create the message, and we actually haven't even made the resolver for create direct message in our backend yet, so we need to do that. But we'll finish up on our front end. We also need to call the create a message container, and we're going to create a new one. So I'm going to call this direct message container, and I'm just going to copy what's going on here because it's going to be similar-ish, and I'm going to uncomment these guys, and for now I'm just going to put someone's username, because usually there's someone user's name when we pass in this channel ID to the header. Okay. Let's go ahead and import this. So instead of using a message container, we're going to use direct message container. And we're going to call that here. And really, to get the direct messages, we just need to pass in the receiver ID, which is user ID, and then also the team ID. And then we already know who the user is, the current user, based on the JWT tokens. We don't need to pass that in. So let's go to our direct message container over here. So this is going to get. If we come over here, we're going to call this direct messages. Okay, we don't even need to. I forgot. We don't even need to pass any parameters to direct message container. I'm going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of the subscription because we don't need that. So this is going to be direct message container. Oh, it's going to definitely need the team ID though. So we need to change that. So pass in the team ID. So in our guy right here, we'll add team ID. Because I don't want to grab all my direct messages across all my teams. I only want to get the direct messages for the current team I'm in. Okay. So direct message container, passing in the team ID. And so here now, we're going to just comment out this jazz for now, because we're going to be adding subscriptions in a little bit. So comment you. And you know what? We could just comment everything. We'll keep that subscription there. We're going to probably use a different subscription, I'm guessing, but we'll see. So comment that out. Direct message container. Let's comment out the amount. It doesn't like that it should be pure because we're only rendering right now. So when we add these functions later for subscribing, it'll be good. So for now, I'm just going to comment this out, the warning. So ESLint disable, next line. There we go. And okay, so direct message container is never used. Let's add that direct message container. And so, all right, so they want to run the messages query. We're going to run the direct messages query instead. Direct messages query. Pass that in here. Direct messages query. And the only thing we're passing in is a team ID, which we get from the props. All right, network only for this is good. And then let's change what our query is. So I'm just going to rewrite the query here. So this is going to be $team ID, which is going to be an integer. And what we're querying is direct messages. And I just need to refresh so we can get the changes that we just made. There we go. So now we got the team ID there. So team ID. And what do we want to see with direct messages? The ID. We want to see the sender username. Oops. And we want to see the text. If we come over here, we really just want to see the sender, and we also want to see the created at. So let's come back over here. And I'm going to just say created at. This will be a string. And then refresh. Let's grab that too. All right. And we can add more fields or query more fields if we need them later, but I think this is a good start. Paste that in, get rid of the old stuff. So now we're going to be querying these direct messages. And to show the message, instead of m.user, we're going to do m.sender.username, and we're going to show the created at, and we're going to show the text, which all looks good. And I'm going to call this direct message for the key. And this looks pretty good. I think our front end is looking good for this. Let's finish our back end now. So let's make a resolver for this. So this is direct message.js, and we can copy message because it's going to have a lot of the same components. Oops. That's down here. Oh, not models, resolvers. Here we go. We don't need pub sub right now. I'm gonna get rid of it. So, and we don't need subscription. We will need to have a direct message here because the sender we need to grab. Alright. So our query, this is going to be direct messages. And oh, we want to do pagination on this as well. That would be a good thing to do. You know, we haven't done pagination yet. I don't think. That'll be a good thing to add. But we'll worry about that in a little bit. So direct messages requires auth, create resolver. We're going to pass in here a team ID. And we're going to grab direct message dot find all. We're going to order by created at, which is good. And here, this is going to be an interesting where. So user. So we want to find it where the team ID is equal to the team ID we have here. And if we just look at our model real quick, notice how we have a team ID, receiver ID, and sender ID to look at. So we want to see where the user is either the receiver or the sender of a message. And actually, I was wrong. I think we also need to pass in the receiver so we know which person that we want. Because I could send messages to multiple people. We need to know who the receiver is. So receiver ID. Actually, not even receiver ID. It's just like a other user that you're communicating with. So other user ID, we'll call it. And so in our direct messages here, let's actually pass in the user ID, and then our direct message container. We'll come back down here and add this. Oh, that's our messages. Here's our direct messages. So instead of just getting the team ID, we're also going to get the other user ID, which is going to be an int, and we'll just put that here. Other user ID. Other user ID. And we get that from the props again. So other user ID is going to be props.user ID. Cool. So now on our back end, what we want to do is this other user ID. Other user ID. We're going to do where. So where we're in the team, and we're going to do an or, which I believe you just do it like this. We'll find out if this does work. Actually, let's just real quick sequelize or, so I don't mess up the syntax of this. And let's search for or operations. Alright, so we want to do an or operator. This is how it recommends doing ors now. That's kind of interesting. So we do const op and we do op.or. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so we're gonna have our or clause, which we do it like this now. So models.sequelize to get the sequelize instance, and then operator, and we're gonna do an or operation. And then we're gonna have our little array here, and then in an array we're gonna have two things. And let's just drop this down. So here's going to be our first condition. Here's going to be our second. And basically what we're looking for is all the messages where other user is the sender and user is the receiver, or vice versa. So here we're actually going to do an and. So we're going to say models.sequelize.op.and. And in there we're going to say receiver ID is equal to other user ID, and then the sender ID is equal to user.id. Alright, so now the other condition is just the inverse of this. So copy that, and we want to say the receiver ID was user.id and the sender ID was the other user ID. And what this will do is this will just grab all the messages that were sent between these two users. And then we're sorting by created at, and we're getting raw, so this looks good. There's a lot going on here, so there's room for error, so we'll have to run this in C. Let's go ahead and in our mutation over here make our create direct message. So we want to do requires auth on this as well. Let's do direct message. The sender ID is going to be the user.id. We'll call this direct message. So we create the message, and then here we're going to pub sub and do our subscription, which we're going to do this in a little bit. And we'll just say true there. So let's take a look and our terminal real quick and see if we're crashing at all. We're not. So let's come over here and see if we get any problems. Okay, I'm just going to refresh. There's no other users. Let's make sure I have the route right to get this. So this, we should see an empty page with no errors. We'll see what we end up getting. Because if I go to index, if I go to route, team ID and then user ID. So the team is 1 and the, is it /user? Yeah, /user. And let's say the user is 2. Okay, so we're getting an error. The operation data wrapping direct message container is expecting a variable other user ID, but it was not found in props passed. Okay, so we got something wrong with our container. So our direct message container, we're passing in a team ID and a user ID. And then in the container itself, we're expecting an other user ID, which we're grabbing from the props. This looks fine. It's possible, I know we're getting a bad user ID. Let's see if we're querying hitting the server. Doesn't look like we're select all from teams. Nope. I actually don't know why this would be having a problem. It looks fine. The operation data wrapping direct message expecting a variable other user ID. Did I spell it wrong? No. So what if I hard code this to be 5? Let's see if that works. We should see no messages because this user doesn't exist. It's expecting variable other user ID. Okay, it must be doing something super silly. We're passing the team ID. This should not be called messages. That's the other thing. This should be direct messages. I don't think that's causing the problem though, because it looks like it's having a problem before that. Yeah. Alright, so what if I get rid of the requirement of this variable? Just to test this. And we'll say 5 there. Okay, awesome. So we get hashtag someone's username, and we get this little message thing. So for whatever reason, this variable is not getting passed in. Other user ID. Was I just spelling it wrong? Other user ID. I'm just going to copy this. It looks just fine. It's getting the team ID fine. I'm going to say props.userid. So this is when it crashes. I just want to make sure this works over here. Okay, so we're still crashing. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say refresh, make sure it works in graphical. So other user ID, pass it in here, other user ID. That's going to be an int. And we're going to pass, we can pass in our variables here. That'll be 5. And other use will be 4. Alright, so not authenticated, that's good. I'm just going to copy this over. It should be what this looks like. And I could just call this another name too. Maybe it's the name that's throwing it off. Let's see. Refresh. Same error. Okay, instead of other user ID, I'm going to call this just user ID, which we already are calling it from the props. So user ID. And let's see if it likes that better. And it does. Interesting. Not sure what's going on with that. I guess it's automatically reading the variables from the props or something possibly. Alright, but let's continue. So now I want to be able to create a message, and we should be getting an error when I create this message because this user does not exist. So ABC, hit enter. We're not even consoling the result of this, so that would be a good thing to do. So that would be in our direct message container. So containers, direct messages, there we go. That's going to be in our route. So I'm going to say const response. And we're just going to log it. I mean, people should not even be able to really get to this page. So ABCD. And we get false, so it doesn't work good. So now let's create a user, add them to our team, and try messaging them. Okay. So let's go over here to register. We're going to say bob2 at bob.com. And let's see what their user ID is. Are we passing that? We're not. Let's log in. Actually, we don't need to log in as them. We just created them. That's fine. View team. Invite people. Let's invite Bob2. So now that user is part of our team, so we can message him. So I'm going to go to /user. And now I need to get the user ID of that guy. So I'm going to come over here and go to pSQL so we can see what the value of him in the database is. So Slack, select all from users. Alright, he is user number 2. So I'm going to say a 2 here. So here we should see all messages between me and Bob2. Now when I say ABC, hopefully it says true. It does. And if I refresh, alright, so we're having trouble fetching the from the user. So let's just see. This is the query it made. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put this into pSQL over here and run it. Okay, so we don't even get it. It's empty. So let's look at what's happening here. So we're saying, and actually before we even look at the query and analyze it, let's select all from direct messages. Okay, so there is a direct message here. Oh, looks like the team ID is not getting set. So that could be the problem. So let's come over here to our resolver. And we're passing in all the args. So are we not passing in a team ID as an argument to our direct message? We are not. So let's do that. Team ID, which is team ID. So we'll pass that as a variable. So let's create that as a variable in our actual GraphQL now. Int team ID, int, oh, that was wrong. That should be $sign team ID, and this should not have a $sign there. Okay, so now in our schema on our server, we need to update that to accept a team ID when we create the message. Alright, team ID, int. Alright, so let's create another message now. That message is going to just get lost. Refresh because the server was still restarting. So I'm going to say hi. It got created okay. I'm going to refresh. And now we get a map of undefined. So let's see what's going on there. That's our direct messages over here. Our container. So I'm just going to do a console log of direct messages. And should it be called something else? Nope, it should be called direct messages. So for whatever reason, it's returning null. And I think I know what some possible problems could be. Yep, it's our sender. So it's not on our front end. We're going to go back to our back end. This is with our resolver, our direct message resolver. So here's our direct message. So our user here, we want to grab just the ID, I believe. So okay, so we're getting all the direct messages, and we'd like to also send the person who sent it. So that's going to be the sender ID. And we're also going to grab a sender. So if the sender is already there, we're just going to return a sender. Otherwise, we're going to find the sender based on its ID. There we go. Let's see if that works. Still, the server was still restarting. Ah, nice. Hi showed up. Man, we got a lot of errors today. So, hey, refresh, and hey shows up here. Now, I should be able to send this also from Bob too. So let's try that real quick. So for him, he's going to come to the same URL, but it's going to be a 1 up here. But he can also chat with himself, which is something we need to add as well. So let's log in as Bob2. So Bob2 at bob.com and make sure this functionality works. I'm going to come over here to my view teams. Alright, I see my one team that I've joined. And now I'm going to go message with the first user. And hey, I see these messages he sent to me. Hello from Bob2. And we see our Bob2 user here. Cool. And we can refresh. Actually, what the heck? Oh, because we're in general. I was like, what the heck is going on? We shouldn't see it pop up right away. So I can go to /user. And we're going to go to 1 is the channel or the team ID. And then 1 is the ID of Bob. So here we are. So hello from Bob2. It got created okay. I refresh. We see Bob2 here. Cool. So it looks like we're able to create messages okay. So there's a lot we still need to do with this though. We need to be able to make these clickable here. And I shouldn't have to go change the URL. I should just be able to click buttons here to chat with users, and I should get subscriptions to work. So that's what we're going to be working on in the next video. That's it for now. As always, the code will be up on GitHub. Thanks for watching, guys.